Did we just launch?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Let's see. Now, Chris, I will say this. If you, like right now, I don't see us live on the YouTube website.
Says we're live.
Nope. Hang on. Here we go. We're in. All right, there we go. Now, Chris, last week I embarrassed myself by drinking these Blue Point IPAs that you bought. And one thing I want to say is this. You shook them, right? Because everybody stood here and watched me. You know, the most viewers we've had ever for a YouTube video. And you must have shaken these before you put them in the fridge, right?
I didn't.
This was all a big booby trap. If I open this, now it's been sitting here for a full week. If it explodes, I know you've actively been sabotaging me. And if so, well played. I'm not even mad about it. I'm not even mad at you about it. Welcome, everybody. Look at this. To another edition of the Rockpile Report live on YouTube. God, I hate you. I don't know what you're doing to me, Chris. What did you do here? This is witchcraft. We are here talking about the Buffalo Bills 2024 and NFL 2024 schedule release. And I'm here with a puddle of booze in my lap. Chris, can you grab me something to wipe this up with whenever you have a second? See, guys, this doesn't just happen. Beers just don't explode. And I didn't have one of these during the earlier show we recorded where we talked about the potential retirement of Micah Hyde, what that would look like. Talked about the MVS signing and how I don't really care about it, and just kind of the idea that there's going to be other moves that are a byproduct of us signing him specifically at the price point that we did. Like none of this happened because I didn't drink one of these. Chris, I almost feel like we're doing an anti-commercial for Blue Point at this point. Like, hey guys, don't buy this beer if you don't want it to explode in your lap like a jerk. But with that said, we're here talking about the NFL schedule release. It's probably the only thing that matters. It's the thing on top of everybody's mind. Other than me, who's wondering why there's this. I now have had enough of these that I know that this glass is called a coupe. This thing sucks, Chris. What is it?
It's a coupe.
I see that there's a pink drink in my hand. Chris is playing cocktail roulette with me this offseason again.
Don't worry. I have one too.
Oh, good. You're drinking one, too. So now we're sipping a stupid pink cocktail in girly glasses together. That's supposed to make me feel better about this.
Yeah, it should.
Bottoms up, you jerk. All right. So it's a clear liquor. Almost tastes like a rum or a tequila. No, it's tequila. There's a tequila in here. There's a little citrus, but it's smoothed out on the back end. What am I drinking?
Hugo, who's actually watching, he asked for some margarita Rex. This is a rhubarb marg.
A rhubarb margarita.
Margarita.
That's ridiculous.
It's delicious.
What is a rhubarb? Is it like a thing, like I picture a turnip that grows under the ground? I'm assuming it's a root of some kind, right? Google rhubarb.
There you go.
Ew. So it's like berries, but also weird celery? With a leaf? I don't like this at all. I'd like to go back. I'd like to jump into Doc Brown's time machine and go back to a day when I didn't know what rhubarb looked like. Yuck.
Yeah.
Well, this drink is good. Chris, well played. Margarita has a nice balance of citrus, has that, but you can taste that little bit of tequila forwardness in there. What all is in here?
It is Cointreau, lime juice, rhubarb syrup, and tequila.
The rhubarb syrup must be sweet, right?
Yeah.
Doug in the comments, we want a thick mustache. I'll grow one. If the Bills make a good run down the end of a good December run this year, which we're going to talk about here potentially being in the cards, I'll grow a playoff mustache for that, right? Like we'll hit the offseason with me looking like Tom Selleck. With that said, we're here talking about the release of the 2024 NFL schedule. First of all, a 2-hour TV show for a schedule release. What are we talking about?
We're going to do it right now.
Okay, but you're doing it on live TV. Like Chris, let's be honest. There's only a handful of people who are going to watch or listen to this. If you talk about the global market for football, right? We occupy such a tiny corner of what is NFL football. A 2-hour television production to unveil the schedule, which every team finds a way to do in a tweet. Do you know how crazy that is?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, don't gatekeep us. I will gatekeep. Gatekeeping is actually good for society. I have a whole bit on that I could do right now, but I'll save it for a future podcast. What I will say is one of the biggest complaints coming out of the start of this is how many games are streaming on various nonsensical platforms. Chris, it's one of the greatest phenomenons of recent history. Think about this. First of all, there's have you noticed this thing where millennials, like young millennials, and like maybe what's the generation after us called?
I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get demonetized.
No, you idiot. What is the generation that absolutely comes after us? Google it. It's millennial and then what? Because whatever that generation is has this weird thing where in the efforts to try to appease these people, we are reinventing things that already existed. I made this joke the other night to my wife when I saw a headline about what's happening with streaming. There was an article that came out probably about a year ago where this science magazine...
There's no way that they can be called this.
What?
Because it doesn't describe them at all.
What is it?
Gen Alpha. None of these people born from 95 to 09 are alphas. At all.
Although I will say, it is the most beta behavior on earth to call yourself an alpha. Like, if you have to tell me that you're an alpha male, I bet you're not.
You want this for... You want that for what we're talking about?
Yes.
Look at that.
Exactly. Look at this stuff. So here was the headline of a tweet. They go, scientists say that with new technology, wind power could be harnessed to cut down on the fuel costs of cargo ships. And I go, oh, you mean like sails? Like they used to do back in the 1800s. You know, because that's a thing that existed before. But now you're all going to pat yourselves on the back and act like you created something new. You idiots. That's all we're doing. It's like when you watch movies and you complain that nothing new ever gets created, we live there now. It happens with technology, it's happening in transportation, and it's happening in broadcasting, and it's directly impacting the NFL. Oh my God.
I see.
What the hell is going on in our comments? I love it. Like, this is chaos. Live with our fan base is one of the best terrible ideas anybody's ever had. Guys, what a mess. I got to take a sip after that.
Not that pink cocktail?
No, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. What I will say is that the idea that streaming was going to be the antithesis of cable. Streaming was the death of cable, right? Right up until streaming found out that over the course of a long enough time, it can't survive on its own, and it became cable. Chris, the article you just have up there in front of me on TV. What is the headline?
There it is. ESPN, Fox, WBD, that would be Warner Brothers Discovery, streaming service announces itself as Venue Sports.
So all of these places trying to have their own streaming platform couldn't stand on their own two legs and decided, you know what, guys? It's time. Let's just band together. Why don't we combine because we all have all this content that nobody wants. Nobody's watching it. But you're good at a few things and I'm good at a few things. What if we put our good things together and then package them and make people buy it? You just reinvented cable. Pat yourselves on the back, you idiots. And the problem is that all of these streaming networks, as they gain traction and as they gain authority, are going to continue to gain gravitas in the eyes of the NFL, whether it's warranted or not. I mean, Chris, look at I have a chart here that's looking at all of the different games, right, that have a streaming affiliate or that are streaming only for the 2024 season. Obviously, Prime Video makes up a lot of them. because they have Thursday Night Football. ESPN gets the Monday, October the 21st game, ESPN exclusive. There's also the Christmas Day games, which are going to be Netflix exclusive, which is funny because if you read the articles, Netflix doesn't know who's going to call the games yet because they don't have a sports team. They're just like, well, we got it, guys. We got the thing. Now, what do we do with it? The NFL schedulers gave us Christmas. What do we do now? It's like Ricky Bobby when he first got to get into a race car. He's like, all right, we're here. Now what? It's one of the dumber headlines I've read all day. And then you keep going down this list, and it's like, all right, how many is Peacock getting? They get the Brazil game, I think.
They have a playoff game.
And a playoff game. And I'm sure have they doubled down? Because last year they had one streaming playoff game on Peacock. Have they expanded that to more teams?
I don't know. Remember the Bills-Chargers game was Peacock only last year. You know how that ruined your Christmas.
Yeah, what a mess that was. But realistically, all of these things, and I see all this hand-wringing going, oh my God, what do we do? All these services, now I'm supposed to subscribe to this and that and the other thing. Maybe you just don't, right? Maybe you just don't. Thursday Night Football sucks. I have Prime. I don't watch it. The Bills played on Thursday Night Football this past season. Outside of that game, how many Thursday Night Football games did you watch, Chris?
I usually watch September. And then when hockey season begins, I'm watching hockey. And if we can, to the comments, Hugo, funny thing is that I live outside the U.S. and pay less for all the games live in one place. And then discontinued foods. I heard the Thanksgiving games next year are going to be broadcast via videos embedded on E-Bombs World that you email to your friends.
Yes. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, at a certain point, it becomes too much. Stop. Don't kill yourselves. I'm sorry, guys. You didn't hear our earlier podcast. I am kind of losing my voice. I'm suffering from an illness that my children brought home from daycare. Shocker to no one who has children. Yeah. No, they literally, like, they're going to make this so difficult. And at the same time, all of these streaming companies that have fought and paid so much to get their own individual piece of the pie as far as the NFL is concerned, they're all just going to end up amalgamated together between three different companies, and then they're all going to get packaged together and sold to us in a streaming format, and that's going to be the end. Oh my God, that might be the best comment anybody's ever made on one of our videos. I can't believe I get my Bills news from a Mako Shark and a Wario J. Cutler. Yes! Maddie, that's going down as comment of the night. I'm not going to lie to you. If nobody can outdo you by the end of the show, I'm going to send you some Q42 product. I'm going to send you some of my company's barbecues. That's amazing. Oh, my God. Chris, you are like J. Cutler. You have his stupid facial expressions and everything.
We probably vote the same way, too.
I hate you. I yelled at him earlier for politicizing a podcast. Oh, my God. What a boob. So, in any event, the NFL schedule release comes out, and everyone complains about the streaming platforms. We know the league is a money pig, and we know that these companies are tripping all over themselves to give them millions of dollars. Why wouldn't they do it? Even if it inconveniences us, the consumer, because we're such idiots, we've proven, just like the people who showed up for the two-hour show where they unveiled it, we're all morons for this thing, and they know it, and so they will penalize us for it. They are going to tax us because we're dumb and we love the NFL. True or false?
True.
Absolutely. So with that said, first of all, early schedule reactions. I want to start right at the top. NFL-wide. Some of the things that caught your attention. Was there a game that stood out to you when you look at the NFL schedule at large?
Simple. That's Aaron Rodgers tearing his other Achilles on Monday Night Football Week 1 in his hometown of San Francisco. That is what I'm going to love.
I love all the tweets where they were like, Leonard Floyd has the opportunity to do this funniest thing ever. Just come flying in the first 5 minutes of a game and cripple him again on national TV. Like I was with people when that happened who don't care about football nearly as much as I do, and the stuff that came out of my mouth in that moment, I don't regret. But it got me a lot of eyes. Somebody just said volume feels a little low, Chris. What can you do for me?
I mean, I can fix it, but we are right at the, or at least I am, right at the peak.
Yeah, well, that's probably me because I'm losing my voice. So can you give me some steroids over there? You're the guy behind the board.
Also, here, I'll give you a tip.
Yep.
See this thing right here?
It's called a microphone.
This is where the conversation happens. Even though I'm looking directly at you. The conversations.
I've been saying for
microphone.
forever, you need to get me one of those like Joel Osteen headsets, but you won't do it.
No, not at all.
Here's what I love. The Panthers getting the drought era Bills treatment is gold. You can't tell me it's not. Like, this is like, imagine what the Carolina Panthers have become. They lost Cam Newton. They've been a middling football team with, what did they have, Andy Dalton at quarterback for a while? And then it was like Matt Corral Matt Corral was supposed to be the quarterback and never got a shot. And it's just like they kept churning like mediocre option after mediocre option. And then they get the number one pick in football. And they take Bryce instead of CJ Stroud at the behest of the owner. The owner forces them to take Bryce Young. And here's where it gets awesome, right? Because their owner, make no bones about it, he's an ass.
Yeah.
He stinks on ice.
He's got to go into a restaurant.
He goes into a restaurant, yells at a hostess, and then slaps the hat off a guy's head. Like, that's a power move. I respect it, but also I respect it in the sense of like, it's like how game respects game. Jerk-offs recognize jerk-offs.
You know what he should have done to that restaurant that he sees that sign out front that like, let the GMs make the pick. Technically, if he wanted to be a boss, what he does is he buys the restaurant and just closes it. That is how you solve. That is being petty, and that is how you solve shit.
See, I don't know. See, if I walked into that restaurant and they're in there and I'm in there talking to people, you know what I do is I go, fine, I'd like 17 tables. And they go, what? And I would take all the menus and just leave. It's going to take you a week and a half to print new ones. I'll see you in hell. That's the kind of move you pull. What he did is he's a punk. And it makes it so much funnier when you watch Houston thriving under CJ Stroud. And the quarterback that the Panthers GM forced down that fan base's throat is now led them to being the only team besides the Patriots to not be favored in a single game on their schedule. The NFL's like, we would love to bury you completely and pretend you don't exist, but we can't. We live in an era where every team is supposed to get a primetime game. You don't get one. You just don't get one. We'll give you an early morning game somewhere in the eastern bloc of Europe, and hopefully you never make it back from there. Like, that has to be the hope, right?
Yeah.
Like, hopefully by that point, World War III's kicked off and Russia just takes them. We don't negotiate for their surrender. We're like, wait, they have David Tepper and they have the Panthers franchise? No. You keep them. They're your problem now. It's just hilarious. So I love the fact that they're now getting the treatment we used to get when we got no primetime games and didn't feel like we were respected. How do you think that goes over at the meetings, knowing that Tepper is like one of the richer owners?
Yeah, I have no idea how that goes over.
Here's another, like, see, because we're bad people, I'm focusing mostly on the negative parts of the schedule. Everyone else is over here going, look at how great the schedule is. How about this? Arthur Smith, disgraced Falcons head coach, now offensive coordinator with the Steelers, is going to go back to play the Falcons in week 1. Who cares? Who cares? But you know that the schedule makers sat down and they were like, oh man, this will be a cool wrinkle. It'll be like an understated thing and it'll be a cool game. No, it won't. Arthur Smith is one of the dumbest human beings alive. when it comes to how to play offensive football. He failed upwards. I don't know how. And if you ever go on Reddit and just look up Arthur Smith, there are whole threads dedicated to just eviscerating how he looks. They were like, he looks like the doorman from Haunted Mansion. Chris, he is a hunchback.
Yeah.
He's a hunchback. And what's hilarious about it is that he inherited a team that drafted Kyle Pitts and went, all right, so everyone, guys, here's what we're going to do. He's Homer Simpson. I'm stupid like a fox. I have Kyle Pitts. Now's the time to use Jonnu Smith. They're all looking at him. Let's lean on Jonnu Smith as our primary receiving target at tight end. Hey, guys, we drafted Drake London. How many other mediocre wide receivers can we throw it to? What an idiot. Hey, Desmond Ridder. That's the answer. Just mistake after, like, no one cares. This is a non-story, but I like the fact that the NFL tried to do it and be like, people will care about this. No, they won't. Harbaugh Bowl 2.0. These are the types of storylines that nobody, like, who did their show last night, Chris, when the schedule got released, they don't have the luxury of being able to do research. That's why this is so funny.
You do live research.
If we're being petty, right? Harbaugh Bowl 2.0 on its face is a really cool concept. You're going to make the Harbaugh brothers play each other for the first time since they coached against each other in a Super Bowl. Awesome.
Also, that is the year that you and I met each other.
Yep, 2012. Now, I don't expect most of you to get this, but do you have any idea, Chris, what the Chargers' record has been by week 12 over the last 5 years? In the chat, do you guys have take a stab? What do you think the Chargers' record has been by week 12 over the last 5 seasons?
Is that with Easton Stick?
It's with everybody.
Playing quarterback?
It's with all of the nonsense. Tell me what you think.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you see the Ravens? Because they're playing the Chargers. That's the Harbaugh Bowl. Did you see the Ravens schedule release?
No.
They used Ronnie, a.k.a. Stavy Baby, Stavros Halkias. He's in the whole video. He does the whole schedule release.
See, now I'm going to go watch that.
Yeah, well, it's him meeting John Harbaugh and fanboying out.
Oh,
and
no.
then John Harbaugh gives him the company credit card to go cross-country to let his brother know what week they're playing each other.
That's pretty cool. Okay. That might be the coolest thing about this game, because here's what I hate to break it to you guys. 2023, their record by week 12 was 4-7. Easton Stick was playing the Buffalo Bills around that time. 2022, they were 6-5. 2021, they were 6-5. 2020, Herbert's rookie season, they were 3-8. The year before that, they were 4-7. Chris, they've barely been a middling football team by the end of every single one of the last 5 years.
Well, we know that Jim Harbaugh is going to fuck shit up in Los Angeles, not San Diego. Los Angeles.
First of all, watch your mouth. Second of all, I like that I get to say that to you sometimes now. I'm supposed to believe that a Chargers team with a worse defensive line. I mean, Poona Ford is a starter for the Chargers right now, if you look at their depth chart. A worse wide receiver group than they had last year. And an unproven running back stable. It's like they brought in Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards is like, finally, I'm going to get a starting gig. And then they were like, no, let's bring in J.K. Dobbins too. And Gus Edwards has to be sitting there going, I watched this guy blow up on contact like 3 different times throughout the course of my career. How did you not see that? You're going to put him in this room? What is Harbaugh going to do differently that's going to change the narrative of what this team is? What do they have that's special?
Herbert.
Herbert, and that's it. They have become the famous analogy you used to use. The Brian Daboll with the chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah, I make chocolate chip I need to make chocolate chip cookies, and then the general manager gives the offensive coordinator chocolate chips and nothing else. Well, I need vanilla extract and flour.
They're like, no,
We don't know. We don't have that.
we don't
don't
have
have
any of
that.
that here. No. You just need to make us cookies, and here's one ingredient. Good luck. I'm supposed to believe that game is going to have any gravitas by the time it rolls around. It'll be Easton Stick playing again this year, and a bunch of fourth-string centers no one's ever heard of. Like, this is going to be a meaningless flop of a primetime football game, but I like the fact that the NFL can pat itself on the back now and talk about what a good job it did. Oh, no, look, we found some compelling matchups. No, you didn't, because you haven't done your research. This can't go well. Mathematically, scientifically, it can't go well. I like T in the chat. Everyone wants to see a 40-year-old fart get injured again. There's too many games.
Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not going to lie. I would tune in just to watch him get tuned up. And then we go to the AFC schedule. First of all, the Patriots, I don't know how in-depth we have to go with their schedule or whether it matters or not because they're not favored in any of their games. What does that say? Like Vegas, we talk about how Vegas lines, like they're not indicators of who is and who isn't good. But at the same time, Chris, it's hard to steer away from the idea that the last couple of years, short of them putting the Jets into the, which who knows what the Jets could have been last year in terms of competitiveness, had not the funniest thing ever happened to them. But I don't know, like how wrong has Vegas been over the years when they make those like, hey, here are the people we see as being actual Super Bowl contenders. It's usually the Bills, the Chiefs. Like Chris, when they say, hey, it's going to be the Bills and Chiefs playing for the AFC, the Ravens will be kind of in the mix, and that's going to be your AFC. And everyone goes, no. Are they right or are they wrong? More often than not. Because these handicappers they may not be great sports fans, but you know what they do is they know how not to lose money.
Correct.
So when they make these things, they kind of handicap it well. And so in that way, when you have a whole gambling community that gets together and goes, that's the Patriots in their eyes. No, we don't believe that they should be favored in a single game, whether they're home or on the road. That tells you about what everyone should probably view them to be, right?
Yes.
It's literally them and the Panthers. They're the only two. Now, the Patriots, because they're in New England and they're a giant market, will get a primetime game, unlike the Panthers. But otherwise, they're
a Thursday night game.
Otherwise, they're just bedfellows in just being preseason favorites for a top pick next year. So I don't even want to dissect their schedule. What I do want to talk about is the Dolphins and the Jets, and they're both really interesting for different reasons. The Dolphins' schedule is interesting when you think about how it ends. Okay. When you think about how the Dolphins' schedule comes to an end, and you think about what the Dolphins have been historically in the month of December. Now, I've got notes here, and it's pretty great. No Dolphins fan on earth wants to talk about this dynamic, but under McDaniel, Miami has had the number 1 offense in the NFL and the number 5 offense in the NFL. Just not wins or consistency late in the season, which are things that you as a football team absolutely need to have, and they kind of go hand in hand. Over the last 2 years, the end-of-year stats and results for them are kind of staggering. And I want to get this out here. I got it up in front of me so I don't misspeak because that drink was good. This one sprayed all over me. This one's working its way.
Is that straight rum?
No. I settled on a Crossroads.
All right.
That's for those of you lay people out there, a Blue Note Crossroads. It's a Blue Note whiskey with what is it? French vanilla oak?
French oak
staves. It's really good. Under McDaniel, Miami has gone on a 4-10 record in December over the last 2 seasons. 4-10. 8 of their games, which is 57%, they've scored 21 or fewer points in. And their only win in those games where they scored under 21 came against the Jets when they won 11-6. They've had 8 games where quarterbacks had under 215 passing yards, and they only have 2 wins in those games. Both have come against the Jets. Chris, it's almost like if they don't get to play the Jets, when the Jets are just rudderless and playing for nothing, they don't have any wins. If you take the 3 Jets games out of the equation for the Dolphins there at the end of the year, they have 1 win in December over the last 2 years.
That makes sense.
And what's maybe worse is that both times when the Dolphins have hit this December rough patch, they either had the division lead or at least had a share of it. That's going to kill you, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, personally, that their offensive systems, McDaniels is a smart guy. You don't score 70 points in the NFL without having an acumen for play design and play calling. The problem is you leave it all out there on the table. And so when the end of the season comes around, you A, don't have a whole lot of tricks left up your sleeve. And B, you as a coach really struggle. Like, you really struggle. Like, Chris, his aversion to running the football in moments where it matters, it's right up there. Like, when you think about the things that cost them football games, that's a big one. Tell me you're from the Shanahan tree without saying it. Look at how the 49ers. What Chris, what team did McDaniels come from?
49ers.
How did the 49ers lose the Super Bowl?
Because they didn't run the ball.
It's too funny.
You know who also lost the Super Bowl that way?
Who?
The Falcons.
Yes. Yeah. Who was their coach? Or who was their coordinator?
Kyle Shanahan.
Guys, history is long, and if you learn it, you find a lot of you find a lot of interesting through lines. The reason why McDaniels was attractive to Shanahan is because he thinks the same way he does. The reason that he doesn't have a Super Bowl win is because he thinks the way he does. And the reason that the Miami Dolphins still do not have a division win over the Buffalo Bills is because he thinks the way that he does. He just abandons the run when it's working and goes to the pass late in the season when everyone's figured out your pass schematics. I mean, I've got a point I'll touch on later in the show. But I will say, they're going to finish their season, and it doesn't look great. Their December is rough. 2 games against the Jets, who could, in theory, still be competitive. Although, of course, maybe it works to their benefit that they play the Jets, considering that's where all their December wins have come from.
Yeah.
They play the AFC South favorite Houston Texans and the NFC West favorite San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco's favored in 17 games.
That's insane.
And they have a trip to Cleveland on primetime TV. Nothing good happens in Cleveland.
No, everyone knows that.
I just look at the defensive acumen of the Jets and the fact that we can't rely on Aaron Rodgers imploding on national TV again. It could be, what is the Counting Crows? Is that the song? It's a long December.
That is the Counting Crows.
God. I got a question. What is it with bands like that from back in that era of music, like the 2000s? They all had the same sound. If you were to play a song by Counting Crows and a song by Train and a song by, at least it doesn't, I couldn't tell you which one was which. Chris, you're a music aficionado. I see you shaking your head. Why?
Because you're way off on the time frame.
Why?
Because you said December. A Long December by...
That's an 80s song.
Came out in 96.
Long December?
A Long December by Counting Crows. Counting Crows are a 90s band.
Okay, exactly. So 90s and early 2000s.
No, 90s.
There's a whole bunch of bands in that time frame that sound exactly the same. I can't tell them apart. It's all garbage music that just blends into pop radio.
I'm telling. Counting Crows made nothing after Mr. Jones and A Long December.
It sounds like the band Live.
Live is good. You don't slander it live.
Wait, no. So Counting Crows, Live, Train. How many other I don't know how many other crappy '90s bands can I name that all kind of blur together?
Well, apparently Counting Crows went platinum in '03 with Big Yellow Taxi featuring Vanessa Carlson.
I've literally never heard that.
Neither have I.
So if it went platinum, and it's like the thing of a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, did it happen? If a band goes platinum and nobody remembers it, did they actually go platinum? Or did people just, I feel like that was the last vestige of people buying CDs before they just started pirating them. I think I've talked about this. The Metallica album in 2003, Saint Anger.
Let me rephrase that. Big Yellow Taxi went platinum in Australia.
Okay, that makes sense.
U.S. gold.
That makes sense. Swenson, I don't hate you or your people's culture, but man, it's like Australia and all these other countries get what's cool here in the U.S. just like 2 or 3 years late.
Well, you know what the Counting Crows were famous for, more so than A Long December and Mr. Jones. They did the Shrek soundtrack. That's what they did. The movie soundtracks. Counting Crows.
Awesome. All I know is that for McDaniels and Tua in 2024, there was a lot of pressure at the end of the season to succeed, and your schedule doesn't exactly, it's not full of soup cans, right? Like, luckily you'll have gotten the Bills out of the way, but it could be rough down the stretch.
Are you busy on July 9th?
Why?
Counting Crows at the Outer Harbor. You want to go?
I'd like to go heckle. I once heard this quote about the band Fish from somebody who didn't like them. They said it's Counting Crows with more confusing lyrics. Like, that's it. None of that's endearing. I don't want to see that. Now, when I talk about pressure, this is why I like the Jets. The Jets are under a tremendous amount of pressure. There's a book that was written, and there's also a phrase, pressure is a privilege. It's a book by Billie Jean King, and it's also a concept. It's a phrase I've heard a lot in my professional life. And I think it's funny because that's where the Jets live right now, and they haven't done anything to earn it. In fact, I have an article up here. I have an article here from, where is it? Oh, my God. NFL, okay.
Hey, Sean Mullally is from Australia in the comments. Never heard of that song. And it was,
that's what I'm talking about. Nobody knows.
It was platinum.
But they gave it a platinum, dude, so it must have been good. Barf. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, today at 4:15 p.m. NFL gave Jets 6 early primetime games because they, quote-unquote, kind of owe us one. The Jets have 7 standalone games, 6 of them in primetime during the first 11 weeks of the NFL season. During a Thursday conference with reporters, NFL VP of Broadcast Planning Mike North provided a surprisingly candid explanation. He said, yes, it's an awful lot of primetime games early in the season, but obviously I feel like the Jets owe us one. When we had this conversation a year ago, we were all in on the Jets. And for that guy to last 4 plays was disheartening for many of us. I feel like we could run it back, and certainly our broadcast partners, when they came to us early in the process talking about what storylines they wanted to focus on in the season, obviously Aaron Rodgers' return was key for everybody.
They missed something. Mike North missed something there.
What?
Aaron Rodgers' summer podcast tour is what he means. The amount of podcasts that guy's done this summer.
Here's what I like. He ends it with hopefully he stays healthy and hopefully they're relevant. Hope? This is the guy who's the VP of programming, and he goes, well, I hope this pans out. What are we doing? What is it? That's a ringing endorsement. It doesn't, if I'm a Jets fan, that doesn't make me feel any better about this, does it?
No.
And this is the best. He goes, all of our, and this is my takeaway from this, guys. When he says, I feel like we could run it back, and certainly our broadcast partners, when they came to us in the process talking about what storylines they want to focus on early in the season, Aaron Rodgers' return was key for everybody. What this tells you is that it's not like we've all speculated on it for years, but this is he's saying the quiet thing out loud, like he's saying the thing you shouldn't say. All of the scheduling is based on what the networks want to see and think is compelling. And so what you have is, Chris, what's the last thing you saw that was actually entertaining on network TV?
Ooh.
What's the last network TV show you watched that was truly compelling?
Here's I'd probably say the I don't know if it would be considered a network show, but Joe Biden giving a speech in front of a blood red background in Philadelphia.
I hate the fact that you feel the need to politicize all of this because you don't have any other pivot. You don't have any other moves. Here's what I'll say. Imagine the people who sat down and think about any failed sitcom recently. Those are the same people who are talking to the NFL about, well, these are the storylines that we really need to, network heads who are going, well, I know I greenlit 5 shows that are now all canceled in their second season, but I think I know what's compelling. The damn you do. That's how we got Arthur Smith in playing Atlanta. Whoever that guy is should fire himself tomorrow. It's awful. It's hack. And so are a lot of these narratives with the Jets, because realistically, the Jets are not all of a sudden the Chiefs. But they have more primetime games than the Chiefs do. Everyone goes, no, but Aaron Rodgers is topical, and it's going to be polarizing, and he's going to get eyeballs. Chris, they know about the podcast tour. Eyeballs are good if the play is good, but neither the play nor the coaching nor the depth of the Jets roster has given me anything to believe in when it comes to them being able to make it deep into the season and be playing meaningful football. So with that said, they decided to cram in all the primetime games early, just in case something happens to Aaron Rodgers or it doesn't go well. But that's a curse, Chris, because what happens if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, and the Jets are still bad, and they're still losing football games, they're just not very entertaining, then do you know what happens? You've committed us to weeks of primetime games that people are going to actively avoid.
Yeah.
It's just a mess. They were tied for the lead, right, with 6 primetime games, including week 1 against Super Bowl runner-up San Francisco. They take a trip to London against Minnesota. All of their primetime games are before week 12. They've got a GM and a head coach who are fighting for their lives. They've got Aaron Rodgers who's trying to figure out if he should even be doing this anymore. One more catastrophic injury. That dude's done. He won't come back. And an owner, right? I don't know, the head coach and GM might be actually, not just figuratively, but actually fighting for their lives. Because if I'm Woody Johnson and somehow Robert Saleh and what's his face? I almost called him McCagnon. What, Joe Douglas?
Yeah.
If they screwed this up again, I'm going to recreate the movie Surviving the Game with Ice-T and Rucker Howard, and I'm going to fly them out to an island and hunt them for sport. That's how this works. See, Chris, it's stuff like this why the universe will never allow me to win the Powerball. Because that's just, not that I would do it, but it's a thought floating around in the ether. I'm just if you had enough money, you could just have an island where you hunt somebody.
Makes a lot of sense.
The pressure of all that national attention, plus 3 games in 10 days to open the season, that's a lot. And then you get to the Buffalo Bills. The reason we're all actually here, and I think I've bloviated enough, but I think I've gotten a lot of my pettiness out. I want to talk about the Bills' schedule. Selfishly, the first thing I look at when it comes to the Buffalo Bills is not competitive balance. It's not days off. It's not rest time. It's literally how does the schedule line up for tailgating. 1 p.m. home opener is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Last year, we had a 1 p.m. home opener. It was the Raiders game. Tell me that tailgate wasn't far and away one of the best we threw all year. Even though we were new to the lot we were doing it in and we weren't really as composed as we normally are.
I do enjoy Dan's breakfast cooking that he brought, and it was his only game that he came to.
I know. We get to see people we don't normally do. The spread was incredible. We had Florida Man Barbecue show up with tomahawk steaks rubbed with Q42 rub, sitting next to Top's Breakfast Pizza, next to chicken wings. Cleary and the boys are over there cooking up barbecue, and Cleary's running around handing out Caesars.
Oh, yeah.
Just driving everybody nuts. It was one of the best. Chris, how many people do you think were at that home opening tailgate?
I'd say around 50.
I'd say more than that. I would say it's probably around 60 or 70. It was crazy.
Let's go 50 for a Republican guess. A nice conservative guess.
I hate you.
50 people.
Outside of the Miami game in week 2, that was those were the last 1 p.m. home games we had until December. That's chaos. I missed that. Now we have 5 1 p.m. home games, which is a fantastic figure after spending 3 games in 6 weeks under the lights last year. 4 out of 7 if you count 4:25 kickoff against the Jets, which kickoff happened almost in the dark. Like, how strong is tailgate culture these days? What do you think about this? The idea that tailgate culture, I feel like it's not what it used to be. I don't know.
I mean, it helps when we have primetime games because that gives you and Iman the amount of time to cook something interesting. And like you could do a brisket. We have the 49ers on a Sunday night late in the season. We could get to the lot at 11, and I know Iman has the method to cook a brisket for that game.
I love that there's somebody named Michael in the comments who's just like, oh, Michael's here and he's craving attention and he's talking about, I came here for something interesting and forgot how bad this YouTube channel really is.
And he's still here.
That's okay. Michael.
Thanks for the comments. It gets us more views,
no, but
dumbass.
You don't understand. We know we suck. I'm not looking at you for approval. I'm content with how much I suck. It's kind of my brand. You're just new here. You don't get it. But if you stick around, you will. One of the things that I look at when it comes to tailgating is I feel like everybody's either dug in with a group that they've been doing this with forever, right?
Correct.
Or you just kind of don't do it. Like I don't know. I don't understand. Like everybody either has their tradition that they've had for, let's give a window, 5+ years. And if you haven't done it this way for a set period of time, a lot of people just don't tailgate or they're looking for some place to go. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this is where I think about ahead of the new stadium. I think about what's going to happen to the year we unveil the new stadium. You know, they're going to put primetime games in Buffalo.
I've already I called it to a coworker of mine the other night. The year we open that new stadium, we're the Sunday night football game.
Sure.
Unless we win the Super Bowl. Highly doubtful. We can keep dreaming, but the year that we open that stadium, Sunday night football, we have that game.
I don't know. What if it's in 2 years and the Bills have had time to retool, fix the cap, get out there, rebuild the wide receiver core, pump up the skill positions. You've got some aging veterans who are still good. I don't know. It's not inconceivable, but what I'm saying is we need to enjoy what's left of the Ralph while it still exists. And so seeing them give us this schedule where we have 5 1 p.m. home games, that the afternoon games you would think would be better for tailgating purposes. Because you go, oh, well, you can get there earlier. Yeah, but it's different. There's something about showing up before the sun rises. I don't know. There's just something about it. You get there early in the morning. You set up all the stuff. You start cooking food. Then people start showing up. And then you're home, Chris, before dinner time.
Correct. Let's keep on that the prime time outlook for what we have. Week 3, Jacksonville, prime time,
Yep.
Do you know what that means from a tailgate standpoint?
That means JK the third is going to come here,
100%.
and we're absolutely doing brisket so that we can show him our attempt. Iman, I
You
feel
could do
bad,
dueling briskets.
I don't want to. The dude just took first in a competition. You know what I want it. I want the smoke. All right, JK, it's us. Week 3, we're doing a brisket competition. Everyone who shows up to the tailgate that week, they can be the judges of who did the best. They'll probably pick his, Chris. I'm not going to lie to you. But Iman can maybe coach me through doing a decent one in a tailgate setting. I like the idea that we have the schedule we have. There's a lot of downtime compared to what last year's was. Last year, I think, like, Chris, didn't we kind of as fans feel like the window was closing for the Bills?
I mean, you can.
But if you think about it, the window at least that featured Von Miller, Stephon Diggs,
Well, yeah.
Josh Allen still in his prime, like those premier talents.
Allen's in his prime for a lot longer.
100%. But the idea is you can understand fans feeling like they were living in a window that was closing. And you could understand schedule makers that are looking at that going, well, the Bills, if they're going to go for it, it's going to be this year. We might as well give them, like, everyone's going to want to see a desperate coaching staff trying to harness what might be the closing of a window. A quarterback who gets it, an aggressive quarterback who's fun to watch. So they gave us one of the most maddening schedules that I've experienced in my entire life, and also my 13 years of season tickets. Like, that was a frustrating schedule with all those primetime games jammed into the middle of the season like that, especially where the weather started to turn. It got dark early. Like, it wasn't great. What I see is this concept that early competitiveness might be a problem. Like, you look at what the Bills are dealing with. It's stiff competition out of the gate. Chris, you want to scroll up there to the top? Let's look at it. You get the Cardinals, first of all, which is, I don't know what they are. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're not. I don't know who their wide receivers are. I don't know much about their offense.
Like Marvin Harrison Jr. first game is with us.
I'm happy we're getting him now as a rookie in game 1.
Instead of a rookie in game 10.
Rookie in game 10? That could be bad. Week 2, you're playing Miami. And it's like, all right, so week 2 against Miami, that's
prime time.
That's a tough one. And then prime time again later against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then you play the Ravens. Then you play the Texans. Then you're at the Jets.
We got 3 road games in a row there. 2
3
prime
in a row.
time.
And if you look at the number of playoff football teams in that early stretch, it's not exactly easy, right? So with that said, it is nice that you're going to get kind of an early measuring stick of what the Bills are, at least early on. And if you've watched the Patriots, right? Like, there's some similarities the Buffalo Bills have in the last couple of years to the Patriots, which, again, we'll talk about here in a few minutes. There's some similarities there that I don't, like, think about, we beat the Patriots early in the season when we were the Ryan Fitzpatrick Buffalo Bills. Teams have gone on to beat the Patriots in week 3, week 4, week 5. And that was their Super Bowl. They're like, oh my God, we beat the Patriots. It's amazing. And then by the end of the season, the Patriots are mowing down everybody in front of them. And everyone's like, well, Chris, it's like last year. Mark Smith couldn't help himself. He got drunk and subscribed to a meme app. Not even bought, but subscribed to a meme app. And then waterboarded me everywhere with pictures, the astronaut meme?
Yeah.
Where the guys are, and it's like, wait a minute. So the Bills and Chiefs are the 2 best teams? It's like, yep, always were. He sent that to me via text. He put it in our softball group chat. He messaged it to me on LinkedIn at 1 o'clock in the morning. The dude's a madman. But his point was correct. Good teams are good teams. And barring anything catastrophic, they'll still be competitive down the stretch, whereas flash in the pan teams might start hot, but they will fall apart down the stretch. We just talked about the dynamic with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Right? So when I look at the way the schedule lays out, I almost like the fact that we're getting some of these games against playoff caliber opponents early. Because if we do fall behind, we have a whole slate of games later on that we can use to make up ground. And I would almost rather have the pressure taken off you late against teams like the Rams, like the Colts. I mean, the schedule isn't easy. You're playing a division winner's schedule.
I do like the middle of the schedule: Jets, Titans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts. I like that stretch of games. I also do like that we get our bye week between the Super Bowl participants, Kansas City and San Francisco, both at home.
Yeah,
I do like having that bye week there.
If we have to play them both, I like the fact that it's one, late in the year, two, at a point where we get that split in between the two of them. I do like the fact that they placed the bye week where they did. If they were going to make us play it like that and save those games for later in the season. Now, there's a bunch of other underrated ways that I don't think, maybe some people have talked about it already, but it's only been 24 hours, so maybe not. This schedule really benefits the Bills in a bunch of ways. First of all, the Bills play 0 teams coming off their bye week. Remember we used to complain about that?
Oh, yeah.
We used to get together here and complain about every time you turn around, the Bills are playing the Patriots fresh off a bye week. And you go, how is that fair? They're just going to throttle us again. And the NFL goes, they were going to do that anyway. The bye week didn't matter. We just figured we'd throw them one. I'm just over here looking at the comments. Drew has a silver tongue and his hair just said, hold my beer.
Jason Nixon ball.
Where'd our friend go? Is he still in the comments?
No, Michael left.
Awesome.
He had to go watch. I don't know what was on. I don't know what's on it. On network TV at 8:30.
He's rewatching reruns of Beverly Hills 90210 from the 90s. We're not entertaining. It's okay. Guys, I don't know if you know this. That's kind of our thing. They play no teams off their bye week, which feels like the first time in forever I can say that. Right?
Yeah.
It's something we used to scream about as a fan base. Now we don't have to worry about it. They get their bye week, like you said, after KC, before San Fran. In 2023, this might be the biggest caveat to the Bills' current schedule, and it's nuanced, but follow me. The NFL eliminated a rule last year, a long-standing rule, that the NFL teams can only play one game with 4 or fewer days of rest. Player safety, logistics, planning, all of these things. But they tore all of that up and threw it into the air like confetti because clearly this is a league that cares about player safety, right?
Yeah.
They care so much about it. They care about the quality of their own product. No, they don't. They put this slop out here and we, as idiots, eat it up. Guilty. I get it. But Chris, when they tell you, hey, this team's playing on Monday Night Football, and it seems on paper like a compelling game, and then you go, well, wait, how many days of rest has that team had? How many didn't this team just play on Monday Night Football? Didn't this team just play Sunday Night Football? Why are they playing on Thursday Night Football?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, the NFL did away with that rule. 13 teams in the NFL this season are going to play a game with 3 days of rest in between them. Not once, but twice. Twice.
Who are they?
You want me to go down the list?
I'm going to assume it's the Cowboys because they deserve shit like that.
Teams with no rest.
Because that makes, I mean, obviously the NFL cater player safety. We give a fuck. The fuck you do.
It's the there's a list. It's out there. I don't have the full list. I have the AFC version, right? So when you look at this and you say to yourself, like, hey, this is terrible. I can't believe they're doing this to football teams. The Bills will not be one of them. Chris, if you want to give it a Google, you can probably find the list. I saw it on Pro Football Talk. When you look at the list of affected teams, and that's where I took this from, some of them are teams that you expect to be jockeying for a lead in the AFC. Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Houston, Miami. These are all teams that have to play at least 2 games on 4 or fewer days rest, which you'd imagine logistically puts them in a significant disadvantage relative to teams in terms of their opponents, in terms of rest. Like, I'm just looking at this. Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincy, Houston, Miami, all getting more. Chris, just Google days of rest 2024 schedule. Do I have to teach you how to use Google?
Oh, you said it was on Pro Football Talk. I was looking. Yeah, that works. Look at that.
2024 calendar for rest days on Amazon. Rest, play, and you are loved. Chris, no one here is loved. This is the most unlikable podcast on earth, and I love it. And I love that everybody here who's watching live, you're our people.
Even Michael.
Even Michael is our people. He just doesn't know it yet.
No.
It's like, oh, you're cantankerous. You don't like other people. You don't play nice. Awesome. You fit in here. You just don't know it. What I do like about this is that when you look at the rest disparity that's going to take place, again, 13 teams, it's going to impact some of the biggest franchises in terms of seeding at the end of the season. Buffalo won't be part of that group at all. In fact, Buffalo gets more rest than the average football team this year. Week 2 against Miami and week 3 against Jacksonville. And we have to go play these South and Central Florida franchises right out of the gate in the season, but we have 11 days of rest in between those 2 games. Week 6 against the Jets. Before we play Monday Night Football against the Jets, the Bills will have 8 days off from their game against Houston. More than a full week. If you go week by week and you count the days in between, the Bills actually average over 6 days of rest per week in between games throughout the course of the entire season. That's incredible considering, like Chris, at the top of the show, we were talking about all the streaming stuff going on.
Yeah.
There is a ham-fisting going on with the NFL. They're shoving NFL games down our throats every holiday weekend, every holiday day. Remember a day when Christmas was just for the NBA?
Yeah. Not anymore.
Not anymore. The NFL just took it. Remember when New Year's Eve was supposed to be
College football
college
playoff?
football?
Nope.
And then the NFL just took it. Mark Cuban had the famous phrase about the NFL, but it had to be like 10 years ago. He goes, oh, well, pigs get fat, but hogs get slaughtered. And the NFL is a hog. Their day is coming. He's wrong, isn't he? The NFL just keeps getting bigger. People just keep pumping more money into it. And so they just keep expanding and taking more and taking more and taking more. They've taken over every national holiday. There's gonna be St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, see, there you go. What year was that?
March 24 or March 14.
March of 2014. Mark Cuban predicts the NFL's downfall. Man, how is he so good at Shark Tank and so bad at predicting the downfall of the NFL?
I think the NFL. Well, this is more. What did I say? March 2014.
Well,
So March 2014, and we are in May of 2014. I think the NFL is 10 years away from an implosion.
and yet
The fuck it is.
we're here in 2024, 10 years from that article, talking about how the NFL has expanded into every major holiday. I'm shocked they haven't taken Columbus Day, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day. They're going to take those holidays too and start putting football games on them. Why? Because they think someone will watch it. There's some cable network dumb enough to throw a bunch of money at them, or there's a streaming network out there that's going to pay out the ying for it. And the NFL has to do nothing other than pick a day and make 2 teams show up somewhere.
See, I wonder what would have happened 10 years ago if Mark Cuban was interviewed and asked, what would you say about the NFL, throwing this out here, 10 years from now? In May, you're going to turn on your ESPN NFL network, and there's going to be a 2-hour scheduled release show. Yeah, Cuban.
Bringing it full circle. Mark Cuban was predicting the downfall. Now we're doing 2-hour scheduled release shows. Man, he's down bad. He's down bad on this one. I want to say this. For the Buffalo Bills to succeed in 2024, how many teams are we going to go up against? These upper echelon teams, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Houston Texans, some of the up-and-comers. Chris, I don't know that we hold a talent advantage over any of them, do we?
Mm-hmm.
Answer me. As the lay fan who just, like, you don't get into roster nuance, but...
No, we just got a bunch of new players, and we drafted with... we need guys that have captaincy experience and glue guys, and we're changing, like what Anthony said last week, we're getting all these new receivers that are big-bodied and tall and not fast. We're changing the type of archetype of receiver that we usually go for. We're changing everything because I guess it's a new NFL.
Well, it's not a new NFL. It's what you do in a one-year pivot. And if it works, you stick with it. And if it doesn't, you scrap it. And now you have the cap space to go chase what is. Chris, do me a favor before the end of the podcast. Tell me who the free agent wide receivers are next year. Just 2025 free agent wide receivers. But while he looks that up, I want to make a point. All this extra rest, yeah, sure, it's good for the health and safety of the players, but it's also good for a team that's as film study focused as the Buffalo Bills are, as preparation for a specific opponent focused as the Buffalo Bills are. I mean, first of all, there was a reason that Sean McDermott's win record against rookie quarterbacks is what it is. It's because they do a very good job of making everybody else on the roster irrelevant. You know, when you have a rookie quarterback, the thing you want to do is surround them with talent. You see it happening with sophomore C.J. Stroud. They go, listen, we're going to get you as many pieces as we can. We're going to get you wide receivers. We're going to get you defensive ends. We're going to build this roster up to help lift you up since you already seem like you're a talent. What McDermott does really well is figuring out how do we neutralize all these other things and just make that kid win. And that's why his record of success against first-time, first-year, or first-time starting quarterbacks is so high. So if you're a film study team, you're a planning and preparation team, then having all this extra rest and downtime for your coaching staff to come up with game plans, come up with the game plan for a specific opponent, and then install it, and then coach it throughout the course of a week before you play them, it's somewhat invaluable, and I want to just give you a piece of what I'm talking about. Earlier, I was joking about the Miami Dolphins and the way that they lost to the Buffalo Bills at the end of the season. In that game, Week 18, Taylor Rapp picks off Tua Tagovailoa. Picks him off to seal the division for the Buffalo Bills. And afterwards, Taylor Rapp basically broke it down for the media in terms of, no, we've seen this look on tape. We studied it, and we kind of knew that in this look, that was the read Tua went to. So I knew it, and I knew I could get a jump on it, and I got out there, and I was able to bring in the ball. Now, that's not his exact words because I'm an idiot, and I don't know how to find it. But that was a summation from his standpoint. And when you hear it echoed by Tua Tagovailoa, and he comes back and he goes, yeah, because everyone's asking him in the Miami media going, hey, how did that game-losing interception happen? He goes, well, we had the play design and the safety, he lined up a little bit wider than we expected him to, but I still threw it. Yeah, you still threw it because you already knew where you were going to go with the football, and the Buffalo Bills knew that. So Taylor Rapp knew to line up a little bit wider and cheat to that side, and it ended up winning us a football game.
McDermott is like Batman. He can win any fight if given enough prep time. There you go.
This is it. And so with that in mind, that one play is kind of a microcosm of what giving this coaching staff and this roster enough time to prepare for an opponent can do for you. They find where you're weak. They watch film. They break it down really well. He must have a really good staff of assistants because they find these little nuanced things that give them an advantage here and there. And then you hear their players talk about it afterwards. Teron Johnson, I'll never forget it. The playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens here in Buffalo during the COVID year when no one could go. Well, I could have gone, and I stayed home to throw a party with you idiots instead. And I don't regret it because I did get to talk to PJ Mitchell, and I got to talk to a bunch of people, and I got to sit on the phone with Kyle Washington for almost an hour after the game was over as he was smoking a cigar in his bathroom. Like, we were all 3 seats to the win by the end of that. But talking to Teron Johnson about the pick six, he was like, no, this is a thing that we studied, and I kind of knew where he might go with his eye. He's like, I kind of knew where he might go, and as soon as I clocked his eyes, I knew where he was turning, and that was a wrap. And it's like, all right, that's it. That's all I need to hear. This team does a really good job when you give them time to prep. We might have the most prep time of any team in the AFC this year. So even though our talent level might pale in comparison overall to the Cincinnati Bengals, to, I don't want to say the Kansas City Chiefs, because realistically the engine that drives that it's not a powerhouse wide receiver group. It's not a robust stable of running backs. It's just another, like, otherworldly quarterback and really good offensive coordinator. That's what powers that team. And that's why they're so hard to beat. But you look at the other teams, Chris, that are jockeying for position in the AFC, and the thing that we have ahead of all of them is that we do a really good job of week to week picking up and finding your flaws and weaknesses and then picking on them. This extra rest that we're going to get might be the biggest caveat to this schedule that there is. Like, if we're all going to walk away from this feeling good about something, it should be the fact that Sean McDermott gets to kind of show off, hey, this is why I'm the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. This is why I'm thought of so highly. This is why I'm part of the competition committee. This is why I'm talked about in NFL circles, not here locally. Here locally, I called for his head. I've called for the man's job publicly. I've called radio stations and started conversations about the topic. I think that he's too conservative sometimes. I think a lot of things. But one thing you cannot argue is that he preps really well against average teams. You have to out-talent us. And even then, it's going to be close. It's going to be a dogfight. Chris, look at last year's schedule for me before we close the show. How many games last year were decided by more than one score?
Not a lot.
Here's the easiest way. Buffalo Bills, ProFootballReference.com. Just look at 2023 ProFootballReference.com. Do that. It'll give you the score to every single game. Buffalo Bills, 2023 Pro Football Reference. It'll give you the layout, condensed, concise. It's why, guys, Pro Football Reference and Our Lads, 2 websites you should really be using if you're a fan. Wait, yeah, there you go. Yep, there we go. There's every game right there. Win, loss, scores, offensive totals, the whole 9 condensed in one table. How many games do we lose by more than a full score?
None.
Because it's hard to beat the Buffalo Bills. Every game is a dogfight. Even if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars and you've been clowning us for most of a game, we'll come back. Even if you're the New England Patriots and you're somehow dancing all over us at home, we will take a lead at some point. It's impossible to hold down the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen at the helm. And so in that way, if you give this staff enough time to do the finer points of coaching that they have to, I feel really confident about the outcome. And maybe this is me being naive. Maybe it's stupidity. Maybe it's off-season bliss where we haven't had a bad loss and I don't have a bad taste in my mouth right now. Like, Vita Vega. McDermott is one of 2 people on earth to lose to NFL Urban Meyer. Ooh, that stings.
Yeah, we want to forget that happened.
And I like that there's someone in the chat called Ralph Wilson Sr. This last 3 years. Oh, my God. Yeah, Chase Claypool was the intended receiver. He's correct. Yeah. No, when we were talking about that interception that Miami threw, Chase Claypool. How hard do you think he's fighting for the football in that play? Everyone in
Not,
Miami scapegoated him.
yeah.
Not at all. I'm just going through the chat right now before we close the show. Like Ryan Tongan, you guys ever team up with Joe Marino? Joe Marino once referred to me as the Mel Kiper of Bills podcasts. It's the greatest compliment everyone's ever given me for doing this. We did a bar show at O'Neill's. It was fun. I don't know, guys. I love the fact that we have people here and that they're interacting and that we have a chat and that we have a YouTube show and that we have all this because Chris put a lot of work in. I never would have done this. You guys coming here tonight, those of you who took part in it, I appreciate you. Know that I appreciate the fact that you guys show up for us. And again, Michael, earlier you guys all got mad at him. Here's the funny thing. He's our niche. He just doesn't know it yet. When the season starts and he's disgruntled and he's looking for a place to go vent it, we're your guys. For today, though, we're just here talking about the NFL schedule, and I very much appreciate everybody who showed up to watch it live with us here on YouTube. But, Chris,
We are an acquired taste.
we are an acquired taste. Thank you, Sophia. Guys, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been the Rockpile Report live on YouTube.